My name is Hannah, and this is my no-buy year. It's been kind of a long time since my last Shop My Stash video. I've been enjoying letting the products that I shop my stash for each time kind of wind down, meaning I've been enjoying letting them run their natural course in my everyday makeup routine. So as soon as I shop my stash, I use that handful of items every day. And then as the weeks wear on, I start to reach for them less and less frequently because I want to reach for new things in my collection. And I actually like that. I think that it's all about manipulating my own desires with relation to my own collection and doing what I can to keep my collection fresh and new. So when I select a new group of things in my Shop My Stash project, then I'm really excited to use those things. Those things feel new and fresh to me right after I shop my stash for them. So that creates newness and excitement. But as I use those things day after day, week after week, and they become the status quo, then the rest of my collection, the things I haven't been reaching for, start to seem really enticing, and I start to want to break out of the box I've created with my Shop My Stash project and discover what else is in my collection that I'm excited to use. So that also creates a kind of a newness and excitement and freshness in my collection. And I think both of those are good. So what I tend to do is I shop my stash, I use the new things for a while, and then I enjoy a week or so of perusing my collection and just using whatever comes to hand. And then it occurs to me that it's probably time to shop my stash again. So I sit myself down and film another video, and that is what I am doing today. Let's go ahead and get right into it. As always, first I'm going to remind you what I shopped my stash for last time and review each of those items, and then I'm going to tell you what I shopped my stash for today. So for eyeshadows, last time I shopped my stash for this beautiful and glorious collection of single shadows. This is my Z palette. I only have 2 magnetic palettes, and when I sat down to shop my stash last time, I kind of curated this one. So I looked at all of my single shadows and I did move them around. Like I shopped my single shadows is essentially what I did. And this is the palette that I came up with. It is a mix of Morphe shadows from my depotted 35O and ColourPop singles. And then sometime over the past couple of weeks, I depotted these 2 Urban Decay shadows from their single shadow packaging, and they're down here in the bottom corner. And I removed 2 of the shadows that this Z palette had in it when I shopped my stash before, and I popped those 2 in the place of those. I can't remember what they were, but it doesn't really matter. I have loved, absolutely loved using this palette. I am so deeply in love with single shadows and with curating my own palette, which is something that I never really did until the very end of last year. And I was just saying in the intro that what happens is that towards the end of the time period after I've shopped my stash for a group of products, my use of the products tends to wind down and I start to look elsewhere in my collection for other things. That was true of the other 3 things in this batch of products, but it wasn't true for this palette. I continued to reach for this palette. I used this palette almost every time I did my eyeshadow for the whole time period since I last shopped my stash. I almost feel like I kind of forgot that I even had other eyeshadows at my disposal. I reached for this all the time, and I was happy to be reaching for it all the time. In a way, I kind of felt like it was all that I needed. And I still sort of feel like it's all that I need. So this not as warm toned taupe single up here, this is something I took out of the Morphe palette, the 35O. This had been my other taupe blending shade before, but over time I realized that it's really quite warm. That is Take the Lead, the ColourPop single. This Morphe matte just doesn't blend that well. It's fine, I can make do with it, but that is one of my favorite colors in this entire thing, and it's indispensable to me. I use that kind of shade all the time, and it just could be performing better. So that's something I will probably look to replace in 2019. I will look to replace my matte single kind of cool toned grayish taupe with one that's better than this Morphe one, but for now it's perfectly fine. That's the only thing I can think of. That's the only way in which I can think to criticize this palette. It's the only thing about it that is subpar. And now that I'm shopping my stash for other things, I started looking into my other palettes and I was like, oh yeah, I have this, I have that. I have exciting eyeshadows that aren't duped in this palette that I'm excited to use. My excitement about them is refreshed because I have stuck to this for so very long. So I'm not trying to say that I'm absolutely ready to just donate all of my palettes and only use this. But my experience with this curated palette has helped me realize that I need a smaller collection of eyeshadows than I thought I did. I definitely need fewer eyeshadows than I have, and I'm much more interested in creating more magnetic palettes that are curated by me. I'm interested in doing some more depotting, and I have a feeling that by the end of this year, I might have done a pretty serious eyeshadow declutter. I can't really do much more depotting because I can't buy any more magnetic palettes. So I'm not going to do the whole project within this year, but definitely at the beginning of 2019. I might be depotting some palettes and moving some colors around. I was going to try to tell you what my favorite shadows were to use in this palette, but I don't think I even can. I used all of them and I really enjoyed all of them. This is a really good size palette to keep me excited and occupied and to help me create a variety of probably, I'd say, grungy, taupey, iridescent looks. That's kind of what my vibe was when I put this together, and that's kind of what my eyeshadow vibe has been over the past month. I shopped my stash for this mini Tarte blush. This is in Party, and it was a birthday gift, a Sephora birthday gift a couple of years ago. It's my most boring blush, and therefore I never reached for it. When I started using it, after I shopped my stash for it, I realized that it is pretty. It's a pretty natural flush. It's definitely on the pink side for me. I just don't reach for pink makeup products that often unless they have something about them, some kind of flair. Like a really intense magenta lipstick is something that I'm into. I'm kind of into like a super bronzy, peachy pink cheek. An Ashes of Roses pink, even a mauve pink. This is just so plain pink. It's just so boring. And it's pretty, and I shopped my stash for it, the idea being that I would relearn, as if I ever knew, the idea being that I would learn to love a boring blush, I guess. And what happened is that I used it once or twice and I thought it was perfectly pretty, and then I completely forgot about it. And I didn't reach for it at all after that. This was absolutely the first thing to drop out of my Shop My Stash circulation. So I'll keep it in my collection for now, but my guess is that I am never going to use this again and that it is not going to stay in my collection for very much longer. This, on the other hand, I still really appreciate. This is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Illuminating Palette, and I used this a number of times and I kind of learned more about it than I had previously known. So it's in a little bit of rough shape. This bronzy stripe here on the side is starting to crumble, and I do think that that bronzy stripe, the crumbly one, is kind of 85% responsible for the pigment and color in this palette. It's really the heavy hitter. So I'm not sure how much longer this will continue to perform in the way that it has been performing. But I was using it, sorry, I can't hold it up and do this because it's just too crumbly, but I was using it all mixed together. Mixed together, it creates this beautiful bronzy, shimmery, peachy color, and it's very, very beautiful as a light wash. When I started to build it, it would immediately become very metallic. Like it looked like I had put a bronze eyeshadow on my cheek. I did that a couple of times for effect and I liked it, but it was so metallic and so cakey that it did make my cheeks look a little bit textured. Like you could see where my fine lines are starting to extend out from the sides of my eyes. I mean, it's partly because I was draping the look all over my cheek. What I'm trying to tell you is that this is a really effective and special product. It's amazing, especially for the price. It's an amazing cheek color when you blend it all together, and you can get a variety of effects from it depending on how much you build it. But for my purposes, what I learned from shopping my stash for this is that I really love this as a light wash of color. I'm really happy that I have this in my collection. I could have decluttered it. If I hadn't done this and gotten to know it better, I could have seen myself decluttering this at some point in the future because I had never really understood its powers. But at this point, I'm going to keep it with my blushes. It was with my highlighters previously, but now I'm going to keep it with my blushes. I'm going to keep it front and center, and I will reach for it whenever I want a wash of shimmery, peachy, bronzy, glowy healthiness. It definitely looks like product. That's the other thing about this. It's not exactly a natural look. It is shimmery, glowy, healthy, peachy, but it looks like makeup on the face. It's not the most subtle. Even when you use just a wash of it, it's a look. And the last thing I shopped my stash for was this Bite Beauty Amuse Bouche lipstick in the color Chai. This was the Sephora birthday gift this year. It was part of the Sephora birthday gift this year. And it's a very pretty color. It's a rusty, rosy lipstick. It's in a formula that I absolutely love, and I definitely got some good use out of this and will continue to reach for it from time to time. It's a little bit darker than the colors that I tend to go for in this tone. So my solution to that is to blot this down and really wear it kind of as a stain. I'll really rub it into my lips. I'll get it so that it's staining my lips, and then I'll layer it on again, and then I'll blot it off again until I feel like the tone of it suits my pale skin. If I layer that on super thick, like I do from time to time with, say, a red lipstick, it will look quite vampy on me, which isn't a look that I never enjoy. It's just not my go-to. It's not something that I go for in the day-to-day. So I enjoyed that quite a lot. I always worked it into my lips and wore it in a smudgy, casual way. I had no reason to think that I wouldn't be impressed by this because I'm always impressed by Bite Beauty. Their formulas are amazing, and I also really appreciate the way that they formulate colors. Their colors always tend to have just the right balance of kind of earthiness and grit along with richness of tone. And that's absolutely true of this color as well. So those are the things that I shopped my stash for last time. It was a good go round, and it was diverse in terms of how I reacted to the products. I would say that these two things I really, really liked. These eyeshadows I absolutely loved, and then this blush is nothing to me. I learned more about my collection and I learned more about myself, and that is just how a shop my stash should be. So let's go ahead and talk about the things I'm shopping my stash for today. So to choose an eyeshadow palette, I thought about the kinds of looks that I've been enjoying creating the most with my single shadows. And it was really easy to answer that question when I asked it of myself. My favorite eyeshadow looks lately have been what someone in the comment section of another video called dirty bronze. I really, really love that description. That is exactly what I've been into lately. So these days I've either been wearing no eyeshadow and a bold red lip. That's a look that I demonstrated in my bonus video on Monday. Either that, or I've been going all in with the sooty, smudgy, dirty, grungy, bronzy business that I have on my eyes right now. So I looked at all of my eyeshadow palettes and I thought, which of these can allow me to explore that proclivity in a way that my single shadows didn't? So I looked for a palette that offered different shades of dirty bronze, new shades of dirty bronze. And this is the one that I came up with. This is the NARS Loaded palette. It was limited edition. It's no longer available, I don't believe. I don't believe that this is available. I will link it down below, obviously, if I can find it for sale. If you're interested in different shades of dirty bronze, there are so many eyeshadows on the market that offer that. There are so many palettes that offer that. This is the one I found in my collection that I was the most excited to use to create dirty bronze looks, but there were a lot of other contenders. There are a lot of other palettes that have these shades in them. There are a lot of singles. You definitely don't need this to do what I'm going to do during this phase of Shop My Stash. Just wanted to put that out there. That said, here's the palette. So first of all, it's got this nice cool toned taupe up here. It's so cool toned that it's almost a gray. And I need that as an anchoring color for the looks that I've been doing lately. So I was happy to see that in here. That's definitely a major reason that I picked this for Shop My Stash. And then it's got these kind of varieties of bronze. I'm really especially interested in this silvery bronze one down here. So we've got a deeper, richer one, and a browner one, and then kind of a silvery one. And then even this gold, I think I just swatched that with a finger that I had already swatched with. Even that gold can be used to change the tone of a bronze look. So this is just more of a variety of bronze than what I have been working with. If you saw my favorites video, then you saw me swatch like 5 bronze eyeshadows that I've been using, and they were all really the same undertone. It was like the same type of bronze. And so here I've got kind of 4 different types of bronze or bronzy gold. And this one, this silvery gray bronze, is the one that I was the most excited about. When I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm shopping my stash for this. And that's most of what I have on my eyes today. That's kind of like the anchoring shimmer on my eyes today, although I did use a bunch of the other shadows in this palette to create this messy, grungy look. The next thing I'm shopping my stash for is this product from Bare Minerals. I'm not even sure what it is. It's called Bare Minerals All Over Face Color, and this is the product in my collection that is a relic of a time when I barely knew anything about makeup. It was like I was wandering around in Sephora. I didn't barely know anything. I just hadn't really gotten into YouTube yet, and I didn't shop with as much purpose and intent as I later did. I was wandering around Sephora. I was just looking for something. I was always into Bare Minerals. I used Bare Minerals base products for a really long time. For a long time, their mineral foundation was what I used. And then actually after I started watching YouTube and I heard about Shape Tape, and then I bought my first, it wasn't even Shape Tape. No, I bought my first liquid concealer. It was the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Chantilly, which is an excellent match for me. And I started using it. One day I tried my Bare Minerals powder again and I was shocked at how pink it was. It's a cool tone. Their lightest color, the only color that's even remotely close to my skin, is a cool toned fair. I just had never known that I'm warm toned. I'm pretty neutral, but if I lean in either direction, I lean warm. So for years and years, I was wearing this pinky fair powder on my face and the rest of my body was kind of yellow, and nobody ever told me. Hopefully nobody ever noticed. But when I switched over to something that matched me better, and then I switched back to those Bare Minerals powders, I was like, whoa, this is not a match for me. The more you know. Anyway, I was a fan of Bare Minerals, still am. I still think that their products are fantastic. They just don't have a shade that matches me, as I now know, in their foundation product. But I was poking around the Bare Minerals display in Sephora, and this looked really beautiful as a cheek product, and so I just bought it without even knowing what it is. It's called All Over Face Color, but it's definitely not something that's supposed to go all over your face, because it's what I have on my cheeks right now. I'm not sure if the lights will show you how rich it is in color, but it's all I have on my cheeks right now. I mean, I'm wearing it basically as a combination blush bronzer, and I think that is what it's supposed to be. I think that's what it's supposed to be. So this is in the color A Little Sun. It's a loose powder, and it's a pretty rich color, as you can see. It's a rich color, but it's not too pigmented. As you can see, it buffs out pretty well. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, but the more I buffed it into my cheeks, the less sheeny it became. It didn't turn matte, but it really started to look like skin. I mean, mineral products can be so beautiful. This is a really beautiful product. I'm impressed by how it performed. I shopped my stash for it, and then I put it on my face for the first time, maybe in years. And I was wowed. I'm wowed by it. I think it really looks like I got a little sun. This is really what I look like when I get sun. I even took it up here a little bit like you would with a bronzer, a little bit on the tip of my nose. In person it looks pretty dramatic, like it looks like some pretty dramatic contouring and blushing, but at the same time it looks remarkably natural, and I'm already in love with it even though I just shopped my stash for it today and I haven't even worn it out of the house yet. We'll see if my love endures. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. So I wanted to pick a highlighter that I felt I could wear with this product. And lately I've been really noticing how when I put a blush onto my cheek that I really love the color and finish of, even just a dab of highlighting powder on top of that can ruin the effect. And I've often been feeling like I need to choose between blush and highlighter, which is probably true on many days, but I was thinking about that when I continued to look through my collection. I wanted to pick a highlighter and I wanted to pick one that I thought would work with this. I ended up settling on this ColourPop Super Shock Cheek in Spoon. It's a very pale sort of pinky beige in terms of its pigment. It's the Super Shock shadow that I have that's the best match for my actual skin tone. Like it really is kind of like a beige, a pale beige, as opposed to being super silver or super gold. So when I swatch them on my hands, this is the one that blends in the most. But it's also glittery. It's palpably glittery. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera glittering, but it's, yeah, because I can see it in the monitor and it just looks like an unbelievably beautiful shine, which it also does give off. I think you can't really see the glitter unless you're super close to it. I don't know if you can see that, but I swatched it right there. Maybe that's just a testament to how well it matches my skin. But the reason I chose it is that I don't get much use out of it and I want to get to know it better. But also, I tried swatching it over top of the cheek product and it didn't mess with it. It's almost like they're melting into each other. It's like they belong together. They deserve each other. So actually, I'm going to try it on right now over top of what I have on. Yeah, I feel like I chose well. I feel like this is invisible until I turn my head. And when it's invisible, I can clearly see the color of this product coming through undisturbed. And lastly, I shopped my stash for the Perricone MD No Lip Gloss Lip Gloss. And I pretty much just reached for it because it's almost panned. It's almost out. It's been lying on its side right now, so a lot of the product has sunk down. But when I picked it up, it had been standing on its side like this, and there was really just a little ½ inch or ¼ inch of product down in the bottom of the tube. So by the end of this Shop My Stash session, this should be completely panned. I should be able to throw this into my empties. And because it's almost empty, I do have a good sense of how I feel about this product. So I haven't exactly picked this out of my stash because it's been languishing or because I forgot that I had it or anything like that. It's more that I want to force myself to push through the last little bit of product in here because I know that if I shopped my stash for something else and then I started reaching for other things, there's a chance that this could just sit and sit and sit and never get used up. So I'm wearing it today in case you're curious what it looks like. I'll put on a little more. That's the color. It's pretty basic. I will really focus on paying attention to how this performs over the next couple of weeks so that I can come back with a full and comprehensive review in my next Shop My Stash video. And for that matter, in my empties video. I'll have to be on point both of those videos to let you know all of my thoughts about this product. So stay tuned. And that is it. Those are the 4 products for which I shopped my stash today. The NARS Loaded Palette, the Bare Minerals All Over Face Color in the color A Little Sun, ColourPop Spoon, the Super Shock Cheek, and the Perricone MD No Lip Gloss. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you'll remember to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.